Welcome to Life After Divorce podcast, and I'm your host, Patricia Lavigne, and I'm a separation divorce coach. I'm so happy you're here to join us today. I decided to do a 10-series discussion with 10 people asking 10 questions regarding their experience of divorce. So I feel it's really important for new people who are going through a divorce to have some hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm really excited to invite Jim as our guest today. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thanks, Patricia.
So how long has it been since you've been divorced?
Well, it's been going on 12 years now. It was very, very tough for me in the very beginning of the divorce and trying to cope with it. Even though I went to get some help through, whatever I needed and how to cope with certain feelings I was having, and hopefully these would go away. It did take time, and then yes, slowly but surely, after about perhaps maybe 6 months, they did go. Some of them went away, but not all of them will. And there's still things that remind me of when I was married.
What was your marriage like?
Well, I was married for 32 years.
32. Okay.
So out of that we're blessed. I was blessed with 3 children, and I was assuming it was going well. Unfortunately, what led to the divorce was the children grew, so we really didn't have anything in common with each other anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the one positive thing that I could say, or one, is maybe that is, and this is what we'll talk about later on, probably is the things that we can do to strengthen the relationship, not to let it get to that point where you don't have things in common. Make every effort you can to encourage the, things in common.
Yeah, and that's what happens. I find that I've been hearing from other people as well, that during the marriage, they got so involved with the children that at some point the husband and wife relationship sort of drifted apart, and you sort of just lost that connection. You didn't have that same sort of spark anymore. And sometimes you just kind of become friends and not really husband and wife. Did that sort of happen to you?
Well, I would think probably what happened is that you were going through the motions. When you think really where we're devoted to each other and looked after each other's needs was in the first 5 years.
Oh.
And then children came in. Well, our first child came in, and then we had to start dividing our time. And then the second child came in, and then the third child came in. None of this I ever was disappointed that they're involved in their lives, because it's not the case. I'm really happy that they are in my life, and as I said earlier, and I wish I'd done things differently. That's all.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Looking back, what would you have done differently?
I would want to keep the marriage going, but in order to keep it going, I would make it a point of conversation. Make sure that we're communicating properly with each other. If there's something that I'm interested in doing, I would, try to get my wife at the time interested in doing that. Or if there's something, vice versa, if there's something that she's interested in doing, I may not be interested in doing it, but for her, I would want to do it.
Right. So sort of have something independently, but also together, and keep that marriage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah. I think it's really important.
Well, for example, I would like to have a golfing partner. It may not be right now. It might be like when we're in our 70s. And I may not be able to go out with the boys and that, go golfing, but be able to have something that we can share together.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's balance in a relationship, right? So when you're looking for your new relationship, that's something you really want to have a discussion with your new partner.
Right.
Do you think you should have reached out for help or additional support after you got divorced?
I, I probably did to help me stay on the path that I chose. If I found myself wavering a little bit, I did. Either whether I was talking to my friends or that to help, get their suggestion as to what I should be looking at. So it's not really a professional help, but it's help of some form.
Do you think that professional help is probably the better way, or do you think that getting some sort of coaching, counseling, or therapy that would have been giving you maybe a quicker recovery?
Well, I think probably in the earlier years, it might have been, it definitely would have healed a lot faster. But, going forward after that and the struggle that I had through for the past, at least the past eight years, you know, just sort of been able to navigate it through, and not too badly.
How did your children react to the divorce? Did they handle it well?
Well, because the way things has been set up in our household is that we were really separated for a long time to begin with. Not a long time, but maybe 2 or 3 years, even though we lived in the same house. And this is a mistake perhaps that we made, or like we're thinking that we're staying together for the children, but we don't know if that was the right thing to do. When it comes down to they probably already knew that we were going to get divorced, but we wanted to make sure that my youngest one had finished high school, and that meant that we stayed together until she finished. And then when she went to university, that's when we told them that we are going to get divorced.
Yeah, I guess there's like not really a right or wrong in a sense of, but what works. And if that works for you during that time, then fine. But I do feel that sometimes it's best not to stay just for the sake of the kids.
Well, exactly. I think what happens is that if you have like a relationship where you're arguing with the person all the time, or you're angry with each other all the time, then it's not good for the kids. But
Mhm.
for my particular case, we were really civil with each other, even so much that we divided everything up in the house evenly,
Wow, that's fantastic to hear.
and we took care of it ourselves. We didn't get anyone else involved. So with that in mind, it was easier for us and for the kids in coping with the situation, and it wasn't such a big shocker to them.
And are they doing well now with the
Yes,
whole?
they are.
Well, that's really good to hear. I'm really glad to hear that.
Well, my oldest one's a lawyer. My middle one's a teacher, and my youngest one's a nurse. So
Perfect.
they're doing really well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Really
Yeah.
nice to hear, Jim. What was the biggest challenge you came across with after the divorce?
It's something really, really small. The simple fact that something good has happened to you, and the very first person that you wanted to tell was your wife,
Oh,
and I wasn't married anymore. So that really, and as I said, earlier, it's still to this day, it still reminds me, well, that's, something happened, something good has happened to me, and you always want to tell or share it with someone, and that person's not there.
mm.
So it's a constant reminder, but it's not a negative reminder, to say that things were good, and it's like memories that they never can be taken away from. We never, well, as I found out through years, is not to get down or depressed about a situation like that. But yeah, it's something small like that. Just the mere fact of telling somebody if something positive's happened to you, then you're not able to share.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of a marriage, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
that sort of something that you do with that person. And that's part of that marriage relationship, is always having someone there to share things with, or
Well,
do.
and even when I was married, yes, that's something that we always did. And, when I come in the door after working all day, and tell Kathy how my day went, um, she was always there for support, whatever it was negative or positive support, I should say.
Mhm.
And vice versa. Like she'd tell me how her day was, and we would support each other.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a very good thing to have. How long did it take you to finalize your divorce?
Didn't take very long. I can't even remember now. Yeah, actually, it went that quickly.
Mhm.
Uh, again, because we did it ourselves. Uh, my sister-in-law, I say sister-in-law, it's not mine. It's my ex's sister, Canadian sister. She's from, I gotta explain it. She's from Boston, Massachusetts. So she came up here and she stayed with what she calls her Canadian family. So her Canadian sister is a legal secretary and set all this in motion for us. She works at Hatch Consultant Engineering Company, and I guess they had a lawyer on staff there that looked over and provided the forms for us, and we basically took care of everything. So didn't take very long to do, but wouldn't be able to tell you or even guess. It's short, is what I'm getting to.
Well, the good thing to hear that it went really well. I mean, a lot of people have different difficulties and problems, and but you both seem to be very mature about it, very amicable about the decision, and worked everything out and got a good split. And that's where I would hope that a lot of other people would take that same direction, and take it with adult and mature way of just splitting everything and saying, hey.
Well, if I could add something to that, you've worked both very hard, and you need to share what you have. Not one person gets more than the other person, or vice versa. So you need to share.
I agree. I agree very much. Yeah. And that's so true. And a lot of people don't think that way, but yeah, it is hard to work for, and your stuff and all your assets and everything. And it should be done very equally as much as possible and very fairly. I totally agree with you, Jim, on that one. And how long after your divorce did it take you to get your life back? Or when you felt like, this is really like you've accepted it. Yes, I'm divorced now, and I've sort of, now I know I need to move on with my life. How long did it take you to get that? We're in that place, that comfort zone.
Well, I guess I'm still searching.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Are you meaning searching for a partner, or searching for who you are as a person?
well, I think who I am as a person, that part has been and settled. Okay, I know that I'm not married anymore. I realize that. Um, but to searching for not like my partner is not easy.
What makes it not easy? What do you
I think
mean?
mostly you yourself, because you've when you got married, that was the person that you were the most happy with, and the reason why you settled that for that person, um, they had more of all the attributes, right? So you hope or you think maybe they might not change over time, but they probably do.
Do you think you changed over time?
Oh, definitely.
And are you comfortable with who you are now today, like what you've kind of discovered about yourself, and or
Yeah,
who?
I would say so. Yeah. The simple fact that uh, I, I own a trailer and I'm happy about going there and enjoying my summer. I've recently started back work even though I've been retired since 2015, that's been a negative thing, not being retired and not having any additional money in your pocket. But all of a sudden now you have additional money. So that part is, so it's a big change. It's a nice change, actually. And I'm moving to St. Catharines. So that's another, I'm finally realizing, okay, I'm going up and down stairs right now. And that's, my body is older and there's a wear and tear on my joints. And so it's going to be a lot easier for me. So
Mm-hmm. And
well,
these are,
there is quite a few changes.
looks like you have some really exciting changes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is when we're getting older. And if we are sort of in a situation where we're no longer married, a lot of people have to stop and think about that. And what is your future? And how are you going to sort of plan your years ahead of you? And, and make it exciting and fun. And you said you like golfing as well, you said.
Yeah,
So you've got a pretty good balanced lifestyle, as I could see.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So if there was one thing you could kind of done differently, what would that be? Was there anything looking back? Would you have done things differently in your life?
Oh, in my life,
Yeah.
when I was married, it would be communicating.
So you say you would change that?
I would change that to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps I wouldn't be divorced.
Okay.
Outside of that, nothing. I'm happy with myself.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear. So if you had to give anyone some sort of advice with just, about your experience and about life today and anything just in general, what would you offer to someone as your experience, all the experiences that you've had?
The relationship you should always work at and never settle. Like, meaning while you're married, work at your relationship. If children are involved, okay, you realize, okay, you're going to be splitting up some of your time, not devoting all your time to the children. Realize that you have a significant other there as well. And, spend your quality time with them as well. And also communicate.
I completely understand that. Communication is really important, but it's also how you communicate. You can also talk about to each other, but you have to be in depth when you're communicating. Explain your feelings. Explain what you like.
It's like you send something on your phone. You send a message by message, or you send a text, or even on a phone call. It's not the same. It comes across to the person not the same as if you meet them in person and you see their expressions, their facial expressions, how they're talking. Well, in a message or a text or even on the phone, you can't tell.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely on face-to-face, you can tell.
Well, I also believe that you should talk to people for certain conversations face to face, not by text.
Oh, no.
Texting is okay for a good hello or, hey, how's your day? Or what are you up to? Or
Yeah,
that
exactly.
kind of thing. But it should never have any personal conversations. It should definitely be together face to face.
Yeah, because another thing too, by going face-to-face, unfortunately right now COVID is not happening, but when COVID is over, the body language, because you're picking up on body language. So if the person is sad or happy or excited to see you, then you can tell that from the skin of their body as well,
Mm-hmm.
or his body.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Well, thank you very much, Jim. Is there any last words that you have to say to anybody that, any type of other advice that you think you would want to share?
Always make sure you always stay up positive. And if you find yourself doubting yourself, reach out, get some help.
Okay.
Not ashamed to ask for help, and that will definitely right the ship, if you want to say.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you again for participating. I really appreciate all your input. Yeah, and I hope that other people can join us for our next podcast and just hear all the other stories that people are telling and their experiences that they dealt with while they were going through a divorce. And as I always say, remember, there is a life after divorce.